All
right.
Toby went after my.
So, coli.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Let's go. Quiet down here, pay attention, phones away. What's my equation?
10.
Now, what's the first, with all the letters?
B equals E, no, K.
Yeah, don't forget the K.
Yeah. K, E, plus B, minus B. Divided by B.
Why is it divided?
Because it's inversely.
Yeah, inverse means divided, right? What's direct mean?
Times 3.
Yeah. Inverse divide, direct times. That's all it is. You guys were fine with that yesterday. Why can't we remember that from one day to the next? Because it's one whole day. We'll start focusing. No excuses there. You could have watched the video, couldn't you?
No.
Why not?
I was sleeping.
But that's something you could have done, right? You could have put some time into it then.
No.
Well then, don't complain about bad grades.
I'm not that good.
That's for each I guess each person's own opinion, right? What you think's not so bad, I think might be that you could do better. So, a certain gas has a volume of 10 liters, so where's that go? Where the V is, right? A temperature of 300 kelvins, so that's for the T, right? And a pressure of 1.5 atmospheres, so that's the P. So we can solve for K now, right? What's the first step to solve for K? Multiply by 1.5. So those cancel. So I get 15 equals K times 300. I don't know what K is yet. What do I have to do? Right. You guys know how to solve equations, right? So what is that? 1/20th? Isn't 20 times 15, 300?
Yeah.
All right. Which is, I'm not sure what decimal that is. What is that? 0.05, yeah. So you could use that also if you want. All right, then it says, if the gas is heated to 400, has a pressure of 1, what's the volume? So I can put 0.05 times 400 for the temperature divided by 1 atmosphere. Is that what it is, 8? I don't think it's 8, is it? Is it 2 something?
I don't know.
20, right?
20.
Right, 5 times 4 is 20, then we just got to figure out where that decimal point would go. Basically, if I move this 2 to the right and that 2 to the left, it's 5 times 4, right? Why are we having issues with that?
At this time, we would like
Okay.
ninth graders that are having their spring.
Direct is what?
Last names starting with
Multiplication.
A.
Joint is what?
Please go to the main pen now.
Multiplication.
You are having your spring.
More than 1, all right?
Ninth
Probably
graders
2.
with last names
Inverse is
A through F.
divide, right? So direct multiplication, joint multiplication, inverse divide. You got to remember to have what? Every stinking time. Okay.
Yeah.
The constant of variation. All I gotta do is just read the problem and close it up. Guys, you're making it too hard, or you're not focusing and not caring. You guys can do better. So we did 2 to 12. So number 2, it says y varies directly as x. So y equals k times x. It says y equals 6 when x is 3. So k becomes 2. So it's y equals 2x. Again, I'm not worried about the graphs. Okay, Danny? Number 4, again, is y equals kx. So you go 54 equals k times 4.5, divide by 4.5, and you get 12. So y equals 12x for number 4. Well, we did by ones though, didn't we? We went 2 to 12 all, didn't we? All right, so number 3, I skipped that. Y equals kx again. 45 equals k times -5. When you divide by -5, k is -9. So y equals -9x for number 3.
Was 2 the answer to number 2?
Which 2 was y equals 2x. Okay, so the directions said that y varies directly as x. That was in the directions. It says write and graph each direct variation function. Again, the graph part I told you guys yesterday, we're not worried about. So when we see y varies directly as x, when we see y varies, we say equals k. Whenever I see something varies, equals k. And then the next word tells me if I'm multiplying or dividing, or multiplying by a couple things. You know, directly means times one thing. Whatever comes after direct, you write down. So for 2, 3, and 4, that's our equation. And then number 2 said this. It said y equals 6 when x is 3. So I put 6 in for y and 3 in for x. And then you solve for k. Divide by 3. So 2 equals k. So my new equation then, instead of y equals kx, it's y equals 2x. Because I know k is 2. And then you were supposed to graph that. But again, you guys should be able to graph that. Start at 0, go up 2 and over 1, right? All right. 3 and 4 are just like that. Yes?
Do we have to write it like that? Because I wrote it k equals 2.
K equals 2, right. But then they wanted you to write the equation once you figured out k.
Oh.
They just wanted to do that one extra step. Okay? Number 5, the wavelength of a wave of a certain frequency varies directly as the velocity. All right? So this symbol was the wavelength, varies directly as the velocity. Direct was times, that's why I put times. It says the wavelength was 60 feet when the velocity was 15. So k is 4 in that situation. That's the constant of variation. Find the wavelength when the velocity is 3 feet. All right? So part 2, k is 4, and v, velocity was 3. What's 4 times 3? 12. So that's the answer. There's 2 parts. Find the constant of variation first, 4, and then find the answer to the problem. 12-foot wavelength. Okay? Number 6, the dollar amount D that Julia earns varies directly. So dollar amount D varies directly. Again, when I see the word varies, I put the K in as the number of hours T that she works. Okay? It says D equals $116.25 when T is 15. All right, so I gotta find the K value. And what is that? 116.25 divided by 15. 7.75. All right, so what's that telling you? How many dollars she makes when she works 15 hours. So what's this telling you? Her hourly rate, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, that's the concept. She's getting paid $7.75 an hour. Okay. Find how many hours she worked when she got paid $178.25. So I put 7.75 in for K, and I just solved for T now. So she worked 178.25 divided by the answer, 23 hours. Does it make sense? Any questions? Okay. Number 7, the volume V of a rectangular prism of a particular height varies jointly. So the volume varies, K times jointly means there's going to be at least 2 things I'm going to multiply. Most of the time it's just 2, but every now and then they'll add a 3rd one. All right. So again, I knew there was 2 things common because it said jointly this time. As the length L and the width W. Okay. Then it says the volume was 224 when the length was 8. And the width was 4. So what's 8 times 4? 32. So how do I move the 32 over? Divide. So 224 divided by 32. 7. Okay, so that's my constant of variation is 7 now. So it says, find the length when the volume is 210 and the width is 5. Right? So 210 for volume, 7 for K, width was 5. 7 times 5 is 35. What's 210 divided by 35? 6. So the length would have been, I think that was in feet, right? Yeah, 6 feet. Make sense? Again, it's not that hard, right? It's simple. You guys can handle this. Number 8, the total cost, C, of electricity for a particular light bulb varies jointly, so equals K times a couple things. Varies jointly as the time T that the light bulb was used and the cost K per kilowatt hour. Another K, why'd they do that to us? All right, C is 12 cents when T is 50 and K is 6. All right, so our constant, what's 50 times 6? 300? All right. And that reduces to 6 over 150. And what? 2 over 50? Is that right? My brain is not working very good today. 1 over 25. Yeah, that makes sense. There's 12 quarters and $3, right? All right, so what's the cost? What are they asking this time? What's the cost to the nearest cent when T is 30 hours and K is 8 cents per kilowatt hour? All right, so we're looking for cost this time. Got a 1 over 25. And T was what? Forgot already. It was 6 cents, wasn't it? Oh, 8 cents, 30 hours. All right, so 1/25 times 30 times 8. 9.6. That cents, I think. Yeah, to the nearest cent would be actually 10 cents, right? All right, we good with direct and joint? What's the other one? Inverse, right? So numbers 9, 10, and 11 say y varies inversely as x, all right? That means k divided by x when it's inverse, okay? So number 9 says y is 2 and x is 7. What do I do to get 7 over? Times by 7, right? So 14 equals k. So it's y equals 14 over x. That's all I want you to do for that. And then graph it, but again, I'm not worried about the graphing stuff. 10 is y equals 32 over x. 11 is y equals negative 5 over x. Okay? The last one, 12, says this. The time t that it takes for a salesman to drive a certain distance d varies. The time t that it takes for a salesman to drive a certain distance varies inversely as the average speed, r. All right? So, d, so a certain distance, d has an average speed of r, so k times t, right? So it kind of messed you up the way they worded it. They weren't messing me up, all right? So it says to drive a certain distance, okay, so distance varies inversely as the average speed. Oops, I'm gonna go back to
Interruption. At
So the
this time,
distance
we
is
would like ninth graders
K
with last
over
name
inversely
starting with N through Z.
all right?
Please go to the main gym if you are having your
Says
spring
it
pictures
takes
taken.
salesman
That's
4
ninth graders last name
point
starting with N through Z.
75 hours to
Go to
travel
the
between
main
two
gym now
cities, 60
for
miles per hour.
spring pictures.
How long would it take to drive to 50? All right? time it takes to drive a certain distance varies inversely as the average speed. It takes a salesman 4.5 hours to travel between two cities, 60 miles per hour. How long would it take at 50 miles per hour? I don't like this. It's all discombobulated. All right? Okay, so they put that distance d, it's actually t should be equals k over r. And then d is, all right, so the time to travel a certain distance varies, so it's still time varies inversely, all right? But they threw that d in there, it messed me up. Maybe it did mess you guys up. All right, so the time, 4.7 hours between the two cities at 60 miles per hour. So that's how we can find K. All right, so I go 60 times 4.75. 60 times 4.75. 285 is my constant. All right. So then, how long will it take to go 50 miles per hour? So T equals 285 divided by 50. Divided by 50. 5.7 hours. Yeah, that one is kind of worded weird. So time varies inversely as the rate. Then we could figure out that the distance is 285. Basically, that's your D. Your K is the distance. There was a 285 mile trip. All right. You guys try this one that I put up here for you, please. Let's just do a couple in class. I won't give you any homework. I think you guys got it now that we went over all, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Or should I give you homework?
No.
No. You're welcome. Bye.
Oh, wait. Is the pressure machine?
Volume is kept constant, so the volume is still. Yeah, that's what I'm reading. Well, I did, I 3.4. Yeah. They're reading them about. Said the volume is kept constant, the volume was. Now it's P. Equals. We'll just solve for it. Okay. 2.6. Yeah, so it says that. Then it says, if the volume stays the same, right? Yeah. The temperature is that now, what's the new pressure? That's not what my book says. So, oh, you didn't change the, went up to this.
Oh.
Your pressure is on. So you put P and then you equals your K value times your temperature, which is 396.
So how are you gonna next? You're gonna do that.
When I figure out how to do it, I'll do it.
I did it. You multiply your two numerators.
That's right, okay. Yeah.
And then you just, I don't know.
You plug it in.
Yeah, I did. What is that?
So if you
All right.
plug it in and change the-
Let's see how you did. So the pressure P of a gas varies, so equals K divided by, because it says what? Inversely, as its volume, V, and directly times the temperature, T. We okay with that? You don't have to write K once. You don't have to write it more times if you want. Even though we say inverse and direct, okay? So, it tells us a certain gas has a pressure of 2.7, so P 2.7, and a volume of 3.6, and a temperature of 324. We okay with that?
Yeah. Yes.
Pressure's P. It said temperature, T. It said volume. Okay? When you solve for K, what is it, 0.03? When you do the math? Multiply by 3.6, divide by 324, right? We should all be able to get to K. Now, it says this. If the volume is kept constant, so that doesn't change. So volume is still 3.6. Constant means don't change, right? And then K is 0.03. And what's the new temperature? Now I just do that. 0.03 times 396 divided by 3.6. And you get 3.3. Okay? Questions on that? Any part of it? Did it make sense to you? If it makes sense, that's good. All right? All right, let's look at this number 2. The cost, C, of charting a tour bus varies, my C word varies equals K, inversely divided by the number of passengers, N. Is that okay with that setup? Good. How about the first one? The volume varies jointly. Volume varies, K, jointly, 2 things, right? Area of the base, B, and height, H. And then we go ahead and fill in stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? So what's correct again?
1 time. It's like 1 value.
Multiplication, yeah. Jointly, multiplying 2 things, right? Inversely, divided. What's in all of these? K. K. All right, T. TP. All right. Thank you for working. Scott, you all right?